On my desk was a sticky note. No name, no smiley face, just one sentence. You were the first person who noticed. And I knew exactly who it was from, because for almost a year, I treated him like he didn't exist. This is a true school story about a group project, a quiet kid, and the moment I realized ignoring someone isn't neutral, it's a decision. Our classroom was always too bright in the morning, the kind of fluorescent light that makes everyone look tired and a little pale. There was a ceiling fan that clicked every time it finished a rotation, like a tiny countdown you couldn't turn off. I sat near the middle, close enough to be part of things. Noah sat near the side, one row back, same seat, same posture. Not slouched, not stiff, just careful, like his body was trained not to take up space. He wore the same kind of hoodie a lot, not because it was trendy, because it made him easier to disappear. And that's what I let happen. Noah was the type of person you only notice if you slow down. When someone dropped papers, they didn't flutter to the floor for long. They'd reappear, stacked neatly, edges aligned. If the teacher ran out of staples, somehow there were staples. If a kid came back after being sick, there would be a clean copy of the notes, written in this careful handwriting that looked like it didn't want to offend anyone. The weird part is, I noticed the results. I just never looked up to see who kept doing it. It was like living in a room where someone keeps refilling the water and you never once ask who's carrying the pitcher. People like to believe ignoring someone is passive, like I didn't do anything. But in high school, doing nothing is still a move. I wasn't mean, I didn't bully, I just stayed loyal to the invisible rules. Noah wasn't cool, he wasn't funny loud. He wasn't the kind of person your friends would clap for you for being close to. He was socially neutral, which is the worst category in school because nobody feels guilty avoiding you. It doesn't even feel like avoidance. It feels like efficiency. And that's what I told myself I was being, efficient. I'll talk to him later, when it's less awkward, when I'm in a better mood, when I had more time. As if time was something people like him were supposed to have plenty of. Then our teacher announced a group project, a 5-minute presentation called The Person Behind the Label. We had to pick someone who was misunderstood, research the bias, and present how assumptions shape outcomes. It was supposed to be this character education thing, empathy, perspective. The teacher clapped her hands and said, "Choose your groups carefully." She read the names, mine, and then Noah's. I remember the exact feeling, not fear of failure, fear of exposure, because I didn't know anything about him, and worse, I realized he probably knew a lot about me. When you ignore someone, you still exist in their world, you're just not kind enough to let them exist in yours. We met in the library after school. It smelled like dust and cold air conditioning. The librarian's keyboard clicked in the background like rain. Noah had already made a real folder, printed outline, color-coded tabs, sticky notes marking sources. I sat down and tried to sound normal. "So, what part do you want to do?" Noah didn't answer right away. He looked at the table, then at my notebook, like he was checking whether this was real. Then he said, softly, "Whatever makes it easier for you." That sentence should have sounded polite, but it landed like a bruise, because it wasn't just a preference, it was a role he'd practiced. I tried to push back. "No, seriously, what do you want?" He shrugged. "I'm good with anything." So I took the obvious route. "Okay, you can do the research part." And he nodded like I'd assigned him the part he always gets assigned. The part where you work quietly and someone else gets to stand in front of the room and look confident. We worked for almost an hour. He wasn't just smart, he was precise. He'd underline one sentence in an article and say, "This is the point." Everything else is decoration. And then, in the middle of him explaining an idea, my phone buzzed, a message from my friends about weekend plans. I glanced down for literally 2 seconds. When I looked back up, Noah had stopped talking. Not angry, not dramatic, just shut down. His eyes went back to the paper, and his voice got smaller, like he'd been reminded of something. I waited for him to continue, but he didn't. It felt like watching a door close gently and realizing it might not open again. So I did something I'd never done with him. I apologized. Not the fake kind, the specific kind. Sorry, that was rude. Keep going. Noah blinked, surprised, like nobody had ever asked him to keep going. Then he continued, but he kept his eyes on the page the whole time. The next day, we submitted our draft. Our teacher returned it with feedback. On my part, clear structure. On Noah's part, excellent, thoughtful, strong evidence. Then she said, in front of everyone, "Who wrote the research section? This is one of the best I've read all year." I looked at Noah, expecting him to raise his hand. He didn't. He stared at his desk like attention was a spotlight that burned. A few students turned around, curious. Someone whispered, "Wait, Noah wrote that?" Noah's shoulders pulled in slightly, like he was trying to shrink. And that's when it hit me. He didn't avoid attention because he didn't deserve it. He avoided it because he didn't trust what came after. Because maybe in his experience, the moment people notice you is the moment they decide what you are, and you don't get a vote. After class, I stayed behind until the room emptied. The fluorescent lights buzzed, the fan clicked. I could hear a teacher laughing somewhere down the hall. I walked to Noah's desk, and my heart was beating too fast for something so small. I wrote on a sticky note, "Your writing was the best in class. You should take credit for it." Then I added, almost as an afterthought, "Seriously." I didn't sign it because I didn't want it to look like I was collecting points for being kind. I just wanted him to have a receipt, a piece of proof that someone saw what he did. The next morning, I came in early. There was a sticky note on my desk, same color, same size, placed neatly like he wanted it to be found but not announced. One sentence, "You're the first person who noticed." No heart, no smiley face, just the fact. And I remember my throat tightening because suddenly I could picture the whole year like a timeline of tiny moments. All the papers returned, all the notes written clearly, all the times he made things easier for people who never once made things easier for him. And it wasn't dramatic. That's what made it worse. It was ordinary neglect. At lunch, I finally asked quietly, "Is it always like this for you?" Noah shrugged like he was trying to make it smaller, safer. Then he said casually, like he was talking about the weather, "It's easier if I don't expect people to stay." That sentence didn't sound like a teenager. It sounded like someone who had learned disappointment as a skill. We finished the project. We didn't become best friends overnight, but I started saying hi first. I started saving him a seat sometimes. I started treating him like he wasn't optional. And here's the takeaway I wish I learned earlier. Ignoring someone isn't neutral. It teaches them what to expect from the world. Next story is about the day I became a victim of gaslighting. Subscribe and stay tuned.